The Camino Norte is quickly becoming a popular alternative to the busier Camino Frances as a pilgrimage to Santiago de Compostela, that city in the northwest of Spain where legend has it the remains of St. James the Apostle are interred. This DVD starts in the border town of Irún, on the Spanish and French border, and pilgrims will have their fitness well and truly tested on the early trails, as the Camino moves steeply up and down hills and cliff tops, but with breathtaking views of the Bay of Biscay, all the way to Bilbao. From the giant city of Bilbao, the trail moves on to the large port city of Santander, the capital of Cantabria, before snaking its way along the coast, passing through a timeless medieval village and some old fishermen's nests, as it makes its way to Lanes, the jewel of the Costa Verde. From Lanes, the trail again hugs the coast as it moves to the region of Asturias and onto the huge city of Gijón. At the pretty town of Ribadeo, we enter the region of Galicia and turn southwest, away from the sea, before finally joining up with pilgrims from the Camino Frances and the Camino Primitivo at Arzúa for the final journey to Santiago de Compostela. The Camino Norte starts from the busy border town of Irún, which lies on the Bidasoa River, facing the French town of Hendaye. This is one of the larger pueblos on this route. It's got ample facilities and bars and restaurants for all your needs. There are 2 albergues here, as well as numerous hostels and pensions for your first night's accommodation. Your credencial, that passport you need to stay in the albergues along the way, can be obtained from either the albergue or the Church of San Miguel. And our first arrows point us towards the holy shrine at Guadalupe and the start of our pilgrimage. The route goes through the main street of Irún to the edge of Hondarribia, then on a track out into the country.
No point telling people that it's easy.
The hard climb into the hills is rewarded with some nice views of the 2 towns as we catch our well-earned breath at Guadalupe. At Don Embane, we take a ferry ride across the river to San Pedro. Our short but pleasant sea journey ends with a huge climb up hundreds of steps to reach the lighthouse. And then some more cliff walking with wonderful views over the Bay of Biscay. Before reaching the peak of Mount Ulia and descending into San Sebastian. It's hard not to be stunned by the first sight of this beautiful city. San Sebastian, or Donostia as called in Basque, has a population nearing 200,000 inhabitants, and it's one of Spain's favourite tourist spots, with a culinary reputation the equal of any city in the world. This compact city is a mixture of the old and the new, with splendid historical buildings and churches, and an old town with lots of narrow, cosy streets, hiding mouth-watering tapa bars and world-famous fish restaurants. The impressive Buen Pastor Cathedral is just another highlight of this magnificent city. But by far the most popular attraction here is the La Concha Beach, which is packed with holidaymakers almost all year round. The popular beaches and the surrounding views make this city a very rewarding first day's destination. In the morning, we find our first yellow arrows at the end of the long promenade, past the empty beaches that were filled with holidaymakers the previous day. And the trail heads up into the cliffs, and then into woods of lime, plane and oak, and more glimpses of the Bay of Biscay. A sign along the way reminds us just how much further we have to walk to arrive at Santiago de Compostela. The village of Orio lies below the hills on the way to our next etapa, which is the coastal town of Zauz. The beach here stretches for almost 3 kilometers, and it's the longest in all of the Basque coastline. This is another large Basque town with some great bars and restaurants. There's a newly opened albergue here to accommodate the pilgrims. After even just a few days of experiencing the facilities of an albergue, a pilgrim by now might have realized one of the most important items to pack on his or her journey is a pair of earplugs. These will be indispensable by the time your trip is over, and a typical night might just sound a bit like this. The Camino brings together travellers from all over the world, and it won't be unusual on some of your nights to be woken up by the snoring of fellow companions. Forewarned is forearmed. We leave Zauz and walk along the seawall towards the fishing village of Guetaria. Here a pilgrim can break for a welcome café con leche before again heading inland and more stiff climbing but pretty nature. There is a well-run private albergue just outside of this small fishing village. We walk in the nature on some quiet paths and dirt roads before the trail descends into the seaside town of Zumai. Here there are bars and cafes for morning's refreshment. Then we ascend once more into some wonderful natural trails as our journey moves inland for the rest of the day to Diba. The town here is found directly below a hillside, with 2 lifts down to the town centre to save those already wobbly knees. The albergue at Diba is on top of the railway station, and you can only get a key and a stamp from the tourist office in the town itself. There is a great beach here, and another possibility of a swim if the weather is fine. The menu del dia, translated into English, means meal of the day. This great innovation is a relic of the Franco years, and it was invented to provide an affordable meal for the general population. It's served by most bars and restaurants, almost always consisting of a 3-course meal with a choice of wine or water, and it represents great value for the Camino pilgrim. The early morning is quiet as we leave Dibra and make our way towards Camino Norte2015. The stunning Basque hills provide lovely views of the countryside. Our early trail is through Cantabrian home oak trees. Today will be long and difficult, with many steep ascents and descents, and very few places to stop for supplies. After the village of Olats, we again climb into a huge pine forest. There's more stunning Basque countryside as we navigate through the rolling hills. Our destination is reached by a very steep descent into the valley where this large town lies. Camino Norte2015 has a good albergue and plenty of shops, cafes and bars for refreshments and supplies. After probably the toughest days walking so far, your feet might feel as if they need a few weeks to recover. They are by far the most important part of you on the trail, so looking after them is a top priority. Blisters are the most common foot ailment on any Camino, and they can cause great discomfort and in some cases become so bad, a walker will have to stop altogether. Proper footwear, both boots and socks, are important, and ideally these should be broken in well before a pilgrim starts the journey. And if you do get a blister, make sure you attend to it straight away before it becomes an ongoing problem. The stage to Guernica Lumo begins with a very pleasant walk alongside a stream, and then some woods as we navigate past the small town of Bolivar. And this could be a good morning's coffee stop. Our climb through an oak forest brings us to the 14th century Cistercian monastery, which is a small albergue for peregrinos. There's also a newly opened albergue in the bar at the bottom of the hill. The trail meanders along the hilltops in this large oak and pine forest. This is another difficult day travelling away from the sea, with many steep climbs. A steep descent brings us into Guernica Lumo, which is the home of the Basque Parliament. In 2014, there was no albergue in the town itself, although accommodation was available at a number of pensions. The sixth stage of our Camino is a long 34 kilometres hike, and the last part of it will be into the industrial suburbs of Bilbao, and that's going to be mainly a trudge on the blacktop. To begin with, however, it'll be more climbing through more pretty nature, and early on the trail is through woods and country paths, and on this step the pilgrim will need to pay attention to the waymarks, which can be scarce and confusing. At Lezama, we leave the hills and the woods behind us to follow a quiet trail on roads and footpaths through the outer suburbs all the way into the city. Bilbao is a lively, bustling port city in the far north of Spain, just south of the Bay of Biscay, and this dynamic metropolis has only recently been transformed into a world-recognised cultural centre. With architectural triumphs such as the Norman Foster Underground, the Caltravas Airport and the Ishkaduna Cultural and Music Centre, and not least of all, Frank Gehry's Guggenheim Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art. In Bilbao, pilgrims' passports can be obtained from the office of the Friends of the Camino, found in the heart of the city. When we reach Bilbao, we'll have walked for over 150 kilometres in some of the most scenic Basque countryside in all of Spain. The seventh stage to Pobena will be a day of two halves. To exit Bilbao, we go over the top of the city, past the newly opened albergue, and into the only real nature we'll experience today. The early trail involves walking on footpaths and minor roads, but the terrain today is a lot flatter than the previous tough days of hiking in the hills of the pretty Basque countryside. We head towards the town of Portugalete with its towering transporter bridge, and then we come to a bike and pedestrian path that goes almost the entire way to Musquis and actually joins the two towns together. The pretty seaside village of Pobena is reached by crossing the Playa de la Reina at Musquis. This beachside albergue has 22 bunks and is a great spot to relax with a refreshing shower and maybe even a swim in the popular beach. On the next stage of our Camino, we leave the Basque country behind us and head into Cantabria. The walk starts with a long flight of steps, a small distance from our albergue. Up high from the cliffs, we look down on the early dawn lights of the beach and the village. From here, the trail hugs the coast and the walk alternates between the highway and some bicycle tracks before we drop down into a small village and cross a field into Castro Urdiales. This delightful seaport is a favourite tourist spot, and the popular albergue is located near the bullring. The town is awash with colour and activity, and the bars and the restaurants here are well known for their seafood delicacies. The Knight Templar Castle and the Santa Maria Church are two of the great highlights of this vibrant town. The ninth stage of our Camino is to Laredo, and it's over 30 kilometres distance, and we stay close to the coast to begin with, before reaching the quiet albergue at Ponteron de Guitza. This small albergue has 20 beds in a single room, but there's no cooking facilities and there's no shops nearby. We enjoy a pleasant walk through a forest of eucalyptus trees before rejoining the blacktop and walking some kilometres past the village of Liendo. To eventually arrive at a series of steps that lead us down into the port town of Laredo. The long, majestic sweep of the Playa de la Salve, which is a 5-kilometre beach, is a stunning view from the headland. Our trail moves down some steps into the town itself, a jumble of narrow streets that crisscross the old quarter of the town. And this old quarter houses the Casa de la Trinidad, a small, spotlessly clean refuge run by the nuns. We share a room with an elderly Swiss peregrina.
It is very nice, the way. The way is very nice and inspiration. I start in Irun, 10th May. I hope in 5 weeks I am in Santiago de Compostela.
The stage to Güemes starts with a long walk either on the beach or along the promenade to the jetty for the second ocean ride of our trip so far, and a punt across to Santanar. Try not to underestimate just how long it'll take to walk to the waiting ferry. Enjoy the sea breeze, because the walk to Güemes is long, and a lot of it's going to be on the tarmac. The trail moves along the beach to the headland. On our climb over the cliff face to the town of Noja, we see some special views of the two magnificent beaches on either side of the headland. Our night's stay now requires a long walk inland on mainly quiet roads. The long and tiring journey is well worth it. Güemes is like an oasis in the desert. We are greeted by hospitaleros with jugs of ice-cold water. This albergue is capable of sleeping over 40 pilgrims, and Father Ernesto is in charge here. He and his family have looked after pilgrims for generations. He has a dedicated library room with lots of memorabilia and photo albums of the Camino. And in the evening we enjoy a communal feast, and Father Ernesto explains his passion for the Camino, and he gives us some valuable tips for our next few days on the trail. Güemes epitomizes the true spirit and the meaning of the Camino. One of the tips Father Ernesto gave us is put to good use the following day, as we head along the cliff's edge to Somo and some stunning views of the ocean. Our descent onto the beach at Somo is a refreshment stop before the ferry ride from the Playa de Laredo to Santander. Santander is a busy port city. It's the capital of Cantabria. This large, lively city has an historic city centre with lots of wonderful cathedrals and museums. There is a large albergue just a short walk from the jetty in Santander, but this huge city has plenty of pensions and hostels if you require a bit more luxury. Santander is the 11th stage of our Camino, and it's over 300 kilometers from our start point. The start of the stage to Sant'Elena del Mar is on endless footpaths and roads as we struggle again to exit this large metropolis. After a long morning's trek, we make good use of another piece of advice that Father Ernesto gave us. The walk today is a staggering 40+ kilometers, but 10 of these can be avoided by cutting across the railway track between Boo and Mogro, either with a mad dash or by simply taking a 1-minute train ride across the river. The delightful little village of Sant'Elena del Mar might well have come straight out of a Spanish history book. It's a perfect example of an ancient medieval pueblo with its own stone buildings and their flowered balconies, its narrow cobblestone streets, complete with tiny traditional shops, all built around the church of St. Juliana. Most of the houses were actually built in the 16th and 17th centuries, and this village can only be visited on foot. Here, time seems to have stood still, and there's an albergue that'll accommodate upwards of 20 pilgrims. The 13th stage of our Camino is to Camillus. Paved roads and dirt tracks will be our surface today, but the area is quiet and the views are magnificent. Camillus is named the village of archbishops, and it takes that name from the fact that 5 of its native sons all became illustrious bishops who later played a major role in Spanish religious history. This is another pleasant village by the sea, and its huge neo-Gothic university sits proudly on top of the hill overlooking the town. The town is also famous for its collection of fine Art Nouveau buildings, reputed to be the finest in all of the region, and they include Gaudi's amazing El Capricho. The small albergue here has room for 20 pilgrims. The Angel of Camillus is a famous sculpture by Lamoni, and it was erected in the graveyard in the 15th century to stand guard over the inhabitants of this quaint town. Our next stage to Columbres leads us into San Vincent de la Becerra, an old fisherman's refuge, and we cross the huge Mazza Bridge, a 16th century wooden structure that crosses the river's large estuary. For those pilgrims wanting to shorten their day, the albergue here is called El Galeon, and it's located at the very top of this town, up a large number of steps. Our trail moves on to Columbres via some small country roads and a highway. Along the way, our trail is blocked by an angry bull who is caring for his wayward calf, and this seems a great excuse to take a break on the trail. The tiny village of Columbres has all the pilgrim facilities, and it also has a very colourful private albergue called Al Cantu, which is passed just before the entrance to the town. Make sure this albergue has rooms available. It's very popular with school and sports excursions. The 15th stage of our Camino is to Lanes. Initially, the walk will be on some minor roads, navigating through a number of smaller villages. After the village of Pendeles, we travel on dirt paths and hug the coast, enjoying more sea air and beautiful panoramas. Lanes is called the jewel of the Costa Verde, the green coast, and not surprisingly boasts some of the nicest beaches in all of Asturias. There are two final approaches to our port town, and the high route over the headland will give the best views of our night's destination. There are a number of pleasant albergues here for the pilgrims' accommodation. And if the weather's good, why not have a swim in the ocean? We leave the twinkling lights of Lanes behind us on our next stage and walk along the coast in the early morning. Ahead of us we have some views of the hills of Galicia and where our Camino will be taking us. There are some small interesting villages on our early trail. The long hike eventually leads us on the tarmac, back towards the sea and the town itself. The town lies on the estuary of the Rio Sella, with the popular beach, the La Playa de Santa Marina, on one side of the river and the original old town on the other. Riva de Sella is a very busy tourist centre in the summer months. This town has a great reputation for its local seafood and homemade cheeses. We meet a young Czech couple who explain their experience so far.
We married last year on 20th of June, and my wife Sylvie, before the marriage, told me that she will go with me to the end of the world. And after the marriage, she told me about this Camino to Santiago and to walk to Finisterre. So it's the end of the world.
Yeah, it's quite hard for me because of a lot of kilometers during the day, and especially for too heavy luggage.
We didn't plan this too heavy bag, but we thought that we have all important things that we need. And after first day, we threw out many things unuseful. I think mostly because of people. They are very kind. Everybody greets us and say "Bueno Camino," and you met many people from other countries.
The 17th stage of our Camino is to Sobreo, and this is a tough 30-kilometre walk and a real mix of quiet roads and coastline. The imposing mountain range, called the Pico de Europas, lie to our south, and this will be the path of the Primitivo. Initially, our trail is on some quiet country pathways. We move through a series of smaller villages and visit a number of beaches with wonderful coastline for company. These beaches will be the last the Primitivo pilgrims will enjoy on this trail. Our final walk is in quiet country lanes before we arrive at the albergue at Sobreo. The small albergue here is usually run by hospitalero, who will happily order your evening meal. The 18th stage to Gijón is a long 34 kilometers. From Sobreo, we have a short walk to Via Viciosa and enjoy a traditional village festival. A specialty of the region is apple cider, or sidra, as it's called in Asturias, and there's a unique way a person will be poured a glass of this liquid refreshment. From the cairn in the tiny village of Casquita, which is a little way past Via Viciosa, the route splits, and it's here we farewell all those pilgrims who will head to Oviedo to walk the Primitivo. Our trail eventually climbs steeply into the Alto de la Cruz, and this tough ascent will remind us of those early days walking to Bilbao. Eventually, we descend into the outer suburbs of the sprawling metropolis of Gijón, which is on the shores of the Cantabrian Sea. Our night's accommodation is some way short of the town itself, at the Diva camping resort, where chalets are available to walkers. Gijón is the largest city in Asturias, and with over 5,000 years of history, there's plenty of impressive sights for the peregrino. Gijón is considered to be the halfway point of this Camino, and the distance from Irún is well over 450 kilometers. The 19th stage of our Camino is from Gijón to Avilés, and it's the least inspiring of the whole Camino Norte. The day starts with a walk through Gijón to reach the outer suburb. On the outskirts of the city, there is some relief as you walk through the eucalyptus forest in the valley of Mount Erio. After this nice stroll, though, the final trek is on road and busy highway as we enter this major iron and steel centre of the region. Villers is also a major seaport of the Asturias region. But you can also pass happy hours exploring an old town full of multicoloured streets that lead into wide airy piazzas and past historical churches and museums. A pilgrim can also relax by the riverside. The large albergue itself is found close to the main street as you enter the town itself. The 20th stage to Soto de Luina is 38 kilometers, but it's mostly flat, passes through a number of interesting villages where refreshments are a possibility. At Salinas, we follow the river on our way to El Castillo del San Martin. Later, we leave the tarmac and walk through the woods to Soto de Barco. And then to Muros de Nelon, crossing the river by the long road bridge. Our trail moves through forests of pine and oak, past the ruins of the original Palace Valdecazana. At the pretty village of Cudillero, there's a 19th century Palace of Los Selgas, which hosts an important collection of paintings, including works by Goya and El Greco. Before arriving at the small town of Soto de Luina. Here, there's both a hostel and an albergue for the night's accommodation. To leave Soto de Luina, the trail moves up and down some deep gullies, and these will certainly start the heart racing in the early morning hours. After these gullies, we're on quiet country road, with the Cantabrian Sea for a morning seascape. The village of Novellana was voted the prettiest place in Asturias in 1962. We walk along the cliff tops, past the resorts of Balota and Cadaveda. There is an albergue at Almuni, 3 kilometers short of the beautiful fishing village of Luarca. Luarca is picture postcard beautiful when seen from above, with its white rendered houses nestled close together, set in a rectangle around a harbour full of colourful fishing boats. There's recently been an albergue opened here in the town centre, but booking ahead might be an option because this is a very popular tourist town. To climb out of the quaint town of Luarca might be another test of the pilgrim's fitness. The 24th stage of the Camino is to La Caridad, and once again, we're going to spend a lot of the time on the asphalt. The trail moves along the hillside with views of the new road being built at La Boa and the villages of Villapedre and Pinera. Alternating between road and countryside, we arrive at the mouth of the river Navia and the busy market town of Navia itself. There is also accommodation here, but our journey's end is at La Caridad, which is another 9 kilometers along the way. And here there's a pilgrim-friendly albergue. The town has enough bars and shops to resupply or enjoy an evening meal. The stage from La Caridad to Ribadeo is again flat, and we start with a trek that navigates through some wide open country. We cross a small brook on a bridge that's seen better days. The shorter option moves on some quiet minor roads that eventually lead to the town of Figueras, which sits across the river from the larger city of Ribadeo. The Norte now crosses the huge estuary made by the River Eo by way of a large bridge, and our Camino moves away from Asturias and into Galicia. Ribadeo is a wonderful sight from up high on the bridge. The local seafood taken from the estuary is considered a specialty of this lively town. The albergue is found below the bridge and accommodates 20 pilgrims. But in Ribadeo, there are numerous hotels and pensions for the pilgrim. Ribadeo is the 23rd stage of our Camino, and it's less than 200 kilometers to our final destination of Santiago de Compostela. A glorious sunrise starts the next stage to Loenza, and we leave the coast, head inland for the first time on the trail. Pausing for one last look behind us at Ribadeo and the Cantabrian Sea, we travel into a large eucalyptus forest. There are not many villages between Ribadeo and Loenza, so it's best to stock up with supplies for the day's journey. On our first day in Galicia, we admire the majesty of the Galician mountains, and this is a typical day's walking in Galicia on small minor roads. Loenza is a historic town centered upon the impressive Benedictine monastery of San Salvador, which has an abbey and a church and houses an impressive museum of religious art. The comfortable albergue here has room for 20 pilgrims. From Loenza, we find ourselves climbing into the Galician hills, amongst the lush green of fields and forests. After some hours of ascending on mainly minor roads, we finally descend into the city of Mondonedo, which was once one of the 7 capitals of the Kingdom of Galicia. This historically charming town has some impressive attractions, including a 13th century cathedral. Leaving Mondonedo, we're again on quiet minor roads, with more stunning nature all about us. And it wouldn't be Galicia without the mist lying lazily on the hilltops, a sight common to this region. Eventually, we descend into the village of Gontan, which is home to a modern pilgrim's albergue. On our next stage, the trail leaves Gontan by woods, which at times can be subject to logging. We are now crossing the high flatlands of Villalba. This region is dominated by agricultural plains and grassland, and our trail moves through forested paths and farming villages. there is a fair amount of road walking to our next town. There's a new albergue at the entrance of Villalba that surprisingly has separate male and female accommodation. This very large town has plentiful bars and restaurants, as well as a large supermarket for all the pilgrims' needs. The stage to Beamonde is a short 20 kilometres and it's quite easy walking. Our journey is a combination of dirt tracks and small minor roads. The albergue in Beamonde is the largest on our Camino so far, and here is the last place you can start a Camino to Santiago and obtain a Compostela. Because from here, Santiago will be less than 100 kilometers away. If you arrive early enough and explore the village, you can visit the ancient 12th century church that has a fascinating museum in the garden, filled with stone and wooden carved figures of animals and religious icons. On our exit from Beamonde, we pass the 100-kilometre sign to Santiago. Though the stage from Beamonde to Sobrano de Monks is a long 43 kilometres, there is a small albergue at Muraz, 15 kilometres after Beamonde, and that's open in the summer. After Muraz, the nature changes dramatically to open common land of gorse and rocks, which are meant to be especially beautiful in the spring when the heather is in flower. Our long walk comes to an end when we see the twin towers of the monastery. This huge monastery, complete with domes and cupolas, was originally built in the 10th century by the Benedictine monks, but later abandoned until reclaimed by the Cistercians some hundreds of years later. It has pilgrim accommodation in its great walls, and at 7:45 each night, you can even go and hear the Vespers being sung. From the monastery, we have an easy walk to Azua. Dirt tracks through fields and hedgerows lead onto footpaths and minor roads. More and more signs are appearing for Santiago. This is now the end of the North Way, and now the other Caminos, the Francais and the Primitivo, join us for the last stages to Santiago de Compostela. Our trail now swells with a large number of pilgrims from the Camino Francais. At the corner of the main square in the town, left of the church, there is our albergue. Pilgrims who have started the trail in Irun will have walked over 840 kilometres by the time they reach the sacred city of Santiago de Compostela. The walk through Pedrosa marks our imminent arrival into the suburbs of Santiago de Compostela. From here, it'll be mainly on the footpaths. Soon we're at the edge of the old town, and in a matter of minutes, we find ourselves standing in the large square, the Piazza Obradoro, which marks the end of our great journey. The twin towers of the cathedral hover over the old town, and pilgrims can now enter the church and complete the ritual of St. James, and also view his remains in the crypt. Another important task is to visit the Pilgrim's Office to register your credencial and retrieve your Compostela, a document that will verify you completed this great journey. The Pilgrim's Mass is held every day at 12 midday and is always full of peregrinos happy to have finished their pilgrimage who want to take part in a celebratory Mass with all their fellow travellers. And those who come on the right day will witness the famous incense burner, the Bote Fumero, swing inside this magnificent cathedral.